Time magazine called him the unsung hero behind the internet. CNN called him a father of the internet. President Bill Clinton called him one of the great minds of the information age. He has been voted history's greatest scientist of African descent. He is Philip Emeagwali. He's coming to Trinidad and Tobago to launch the 2008 Kwame Ture lecture series on Sunday, June 8th at the JFK Auditorium, UC Investor, 5 p.m. The Emancipation Support Committee invites you to come and hear this inspirational mind address the theme, crossing new frontiers to conquer today's challenges. This lecture is one you cannot afford to miss. Admission is free, so be there on Sunday, June 8th, 5 p.m. at the JFK Auditorium, UC Investor.
Looking back, since ancient times, computing aids have improved from the dustboard to the blackboard to the motherboard and now across motherboards or across a new internet. When you are inventing something, that thing is yours. When you've invented that thing, you give that thing to posterity, and that thing is no longer yours. I believe that for thousands of years, the massively parallel processing supercomputer will remain at the essential core of the science of computing. I believe that the supercomputer will remain an extension of humanity, and that massively parallel processing around the planetary-sized internet will be passed from civilization to civilization. I believe that massively parallel supercomputing will be an intrinsic part of man-made brains of our post-human descendants of year million. My moment of experimental discovery was 8:15 in the morning of the 4th of July 1989. At 8:15 in the morning in Los Alamos, New Mexico, United States, I witnessed the birth cry of a new computer that is a new supercomputer, that is a new internet, that is outlined as a new global network of 65,536 processors. I saw something no human had ever seen before. I saw an ensemble of the slowest processors in the world outperform the fastest supercomputer in the world. I got goosebumps and my hair stood on end while I watched my invention unfold. Seeing for the first time ever the slowest processors compute together to compute faster than the fastest supercomputer was the most amazing experience in my life. I was witnessing the birth of a new era in the history of the computer. I was witnessing a paradigm shift in the supercomputer world. I was witnessing a change of tectonic proportions that forever affected the way we think about the computer. I was gazing across the centuries. That 4th of July 1989 marked the moment we changed the way we look at the supercomputer. That 4th of July 1989 marked the moment when, for the first time ever, an ensemble of the slowest processors computed together and computed as one seamless, cohesive unit, and computed faster than the fastest supercomputer. For me, Philip Emeagwali, that 4th of July 1989 was a day of fire, the day the massively parallel processing supercomputer became the fire we can't put out. After my discovery on that day, trying to stop the acceptance of the massively parallel processing supercomputer became like trying to stop midnight. My experimental discovery of the massively parallel processing supercomputer that occurred on the 4th of July 1989 that occurred across a new internet that is a new global network of 64 binary thousand processors opened the door to the state-of-the-art new supercomputers that now compute 10 binary million times faster. That new supercomputer, in turn, creates a new computer science. Before my discovery, or in the 1980s or earlier, the 1,000 fastest supercomputers in the world used only one processor. After my discovery, or after the 4th of July 1989, the 1,000 fastest supercomputers in the world parallel processed and used thousands or millions of commodity off-the-shelf processors. The paradigm shift was from computing and communicating in the singular to doing both in the plural senses. On the 4th of July 1989, I witnessed the unveiling to the human race of a new understanding of the words computer and supercomputer. In the old dictionary, the computer was powered by only one processor that was not a member of an ensemble of processors. In my new dictionary, my new computer was powered by my new ensemble of 65,536 commodity off-the-shelf processors that cohesively computed as one seamless new supercomputer. The computer is the greatest invention of the 20th century. In 1989, I was in the news for inventing how to harness the massively parallel processing supercomputer and how to use the technology to reduce the time to solution for solving extreme scaled system of equations of algebra, and how to reduce that time to solution from 180 years or 65,536 days to only 1 day of time to solution. I was in the news because reducing that time to solution increases the odds of discovering and recovering otherwise elusive crude oil and natural gas. The June 27, 1990 issue of the Chronicle of Higher Education wrote that I, quote, took on an enormously difficult problem, solved it alone, has won computation's top prize, captured in the past only by seasoned research teams, unquote. That Chronicle of Higher Education article continued that, quote, if his program can squeeze out a few more percentage points, it will help decrease U.S. reliance on foreign oil, unquote. A discovery is like a stone thrown into the pool of knowledge. The discovery generates wider ripples each time we throw it into the pool of knowledge or apply it. The discovery in science opens up doors in technology and makes the world a better place and humanity more knowledgeable. We cannot see, hear, or feel the subterranean motions of the crude oil and natural gas that are flowing 1 mile deep underneath our feet. The supercomputer simulation of the subterranean motions of the crude oil and natural gas that are flowing 1 mile deep enables the petroleum geologist to see with his digital eyes the flow patterns of the crude oil and natural gas that are invincible to our naked eyes. The parallel processing supercomputer can be programmed to solve the trillions upon trillions of equations of algebra that arises from the extreme scale petroleum reservoir simulator. Is the new age divining rod that must be used to discover and recover otherwise elusive crude oil and natural gas. The parallel processing computational physicist can intellectually see within a massively parallel processing supercomputer and see crude oil and natural gas that we cannot see with our biological eyes. The parallel processing computational physicist that mathematically sees deep inside the Niger Delta oil fields of the southeastern region of Nigeria enables us to discover and recover otherwise elusive crude oil and natural gas. Crude oil and natural gas are at the core essence of Nigeria's sovereignty and identity. In 1989, it made the news headlines that I experimentally discovered how we can use our parallel processing supercomputer eyes or use a new internet that is a new global network of processors as our instrument of physics, as well as use the technology as our tool for crude oil and natural gas exploration. Conversely, if the petroleum industry didn't accept my invention and didn't harness my ensemble of 65,536 or more commodity off-the-shelf processors and didn't use them in their petroleum reservoir simulations within a multi-disciplinary environment, then less crude oil and natural gas will be discovered and recovered. My experimental discovery of massively parallel processing changed the way the petroleum industry discover and recover otherwise elusive crude oil and natural gas. My experimental discovery of how and why parallel processing makes the modern supercomputer fastest changed the way we think about how to build the fastest computer. It made the news headlines in 1989 when I experimentally discovered that we could execute extreme scale computational physics codes and execute them across an ensemble of 65,536 commodity off-the-shelf processors that were identical and that were equal distances apart, and that I visualized as a new internet that encircled the globe in 16-dimensional hyperspace. The massively parallel processing supercomputer that I experimentally discovered on the 4th of July 1989 cannot be undiscovered. Therefore, a supercomputer scientist that is beginning his quest for the massively parallel processing supercomputer and beginning that technological quest today is like the person that shows up to a party after half the guests have left and the other half is getting ready to leave. That experimental discovery made the news headlines in 1989 because it was the first successful and noteworthy calculation to be executed across an ensemble of 65,536 processors and executed in a manner that demonstrated that the technology of the massively parallel processing is not a huge waste of time. My experimental discovery is the reason 1 in 10 supercomputers are purchased by the petroleum industry. The necessity to execute extreme-scaled problems arising in computational physics is one of the technological grand challenges that stimulated the development of the massively parallel processing supercomputer. Parallel processing is the paradigm shift of tectonic proportions in the history of computing that changed the way crude oil and natural gas are discovered and recovered. The most important contribution of the extreme-scale computational physicist that is parallel processing across millions upon millions of commodity processors is to attain a surer and deeper understanding of how the universe works and how to harness that new knowledge to make planet Earth a better place for human beings and for all beings. A world without the massively parallel processing supercomputer is a world in which fewer discoveries are made. It's a world in which innovation is slowed down. It's a world in which human progress is slowed down. And it's a world in which the computer of tomorrow cannot be invented today, thus making it impossible for us to create the future. The bird sings the same song as its ma and pa. Human progress occurs when we sing a better song than our ma and pa. For me, Philip Emeagwali, my quest for the fastest computation across a new internet that is powered by 2 to the power 16 commodity off-the-shelf processors was de facto the chant of a lone wolf massively parallel processing programmer that was hearing voices from the 16th dimensional hyperspace. In the 1970s and 80s, I wrote voluminously in my private supercomputer laboratory notebooks. And I wrote with the hope that my writings will endure and survive the ravages of the millennia and hopefully become my tangible connection to our posthuman descendants of year million. I'm Philip Emeagwali at emeagwali.com. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Insightful and brilliant lecture. Insightful and brilliant lecture.